Shalom. My name is Fernanda. It's an Italian name. And my maiden surname was Benedetto, a very aristocratic family. And my married name later on was Shapira. So I am Fernanda Benedetto Shapira. I would like to introduce myself. I was born in Cairo, Egypt, from a very, very aristocratic family. I'm very sorry if I tell you details that seem to be a bit big-headed, but I want you to know all about me, the real Fernanda. My father was originally half Austrian from Graz, and actually the dominant part of his life was Italian, Benedetto, and they came from a German family, Benedict, generations ago. My mother was a my father was the commercial attaché to the Austrian embassy and was going around the world most of the time until he settled in Egypt with the family, because Egypt was the Garden of Eden for foreigners. A very cosmopolitan country where life was very easy and everybody felt very spoiled daily. My mother came from an extremely aristocratic family. This is the least to say. She was 8 generations ago. Their name was Deutsch. They came from Germany, and then they settled in Italy 8 generations ago, and they became Tedeschi. Tedeschi in Italian means German. So Alba, my mother was called Alba Tedeschi, was a professor in traditional, conventional, and natural medicine, especially connected with the Rambam. She used to cure 10,000 people and on the Rambam methods. And she was very well loved by everybody. She was a very distinguished aristocratic lady. And she was very suitable with my father to go around the world. And because there were not many schools in Egypt, I was born in Cairo. This was my beginning. I was born in Cairo. So I was born in Cairo, and my parents went around traveling most of the time. And because schools, Jewish schools, were not of the standard that my parents expected, and the diplomas we got in Egypt from Jewish schools were not recognized anywhere in the world later on. And my parents wanted me to become a doctor or whatever, and they needed certificates and diplomas stamped by the Swiss embassy. And this you could only get by studying at the nuns in convents. I mean, I was on board in schools with the Catholic nuns most of my life. I mean, I got all my degrees and my diplomas and everything from Swiss embassy recognized diplomas. And I was in Cairo till the age of about 9. In between, of course, when my father had to travel for long periods to Belgium or to Czechoslovakia or wherever, so they used to take me with, and I used to go to schools and recognized as a temporary student. And then we were coming back to Egypt, because Egypt had become our headquarters, and that's where we lived all the time. And after the age of about 9, 10, my father was transferred to Ismailia. Ismailia was a lovely, lovely little town by the Timsah Lake, very picturesque, where people really went from the lake to the coffee houses to the clubs, and very spoiled. All the pilots of the Suez Canal Company, that's Ismailia, was on the Suez Canal, and we had our house on the Suez Canal, and we always had guards by the door, because my father, being a diplomat, had to be looked after. And the Egyptian or Sudanese guards were always 2 guards by outside our door. And I studied at St. Vincent College. St. Vincent College was a boarding school, very high standard boarding school, where all the children of the pilots, French pilots of the Suez Canal, also English pilots of the Suez Canal, were learning. And I was considered as a very aristocratic pupil, coming from a father who is a diplomat, a mother who was very well known, because whenever she was called by whoever, if it was Arabs or French or English, she ran to help people day and night. Whenever she was called, they used to send servants. Professor Benedetto, we have a child choking, or we have a little Arab boy who fell from the first floor building. Please come and help. And she always was there. She always helped. Of course, she never charged for that. And we had a very good name in whatever area we were. And I studied at the age of 50, because we studied many hours a day, being on board in school. There was no television, there were no such thing as computers, so we studied. And at the age of 15, I received my degree as a super qualified teacher for English, French, Italian, and Arabic. And after that, whatever we were studying was in the direction of what we wanted to specifically get our diplomas for.
Did you know Jews in Ismailia? Did you ever go to a synagogue?
So I'm coming to this point now. In Cairo, we went to the synagogue for the Hagim, for the holidays. And the Cairo synagogue was called the Ismailia synagogue. It was in Cairo. And unfortunately, children had to be outside. They wouldn't let children in because they disturbed during the prayer. Which means up to the age of 9, 10, I never saw a Sefer Torah in my life. And I knew I was Jewish because my mother made sure to make a Shabbos table, a Shabbat table, and she lit candles. And my father never went to the synagogue on Friday night or Shabbatot. It was only on holidays. And in addition to this, the Gabaim of the shul, of the synagogue, kept the synagogue open only when the Gabaim were there, which means at certain hours of the day. And I was crying my soul out and asked my mother to show me a Sefer Torah. I wanted to see a Sefer Torah. I was in a school with everybody had a cross on a chain wearing on their neck, and I couldn't wear a Magen David. I was treated very well. I can't complain about the nuns. Anywhere I went, to every nun school, they were very broad-minded, very good. Excuse me. They just reminded me daily that I put Jesus on the cross, but they didn't keep me really personally, capable of remembering this all my life. Excuse me, I have a cough because I have one lung. So when I speak a little more, you will know later why I have one lung. It's not out of illness, but this is for later information. And I never saw a Sefer Torah in Cairo, and the Jewish community was not very united. Because Cairo being a very big town, people lived in different areas. Most of the Jews in Cairo lived in the ghetto. And they were treated like Arab Jews. They were Hart el Yahud. Hara is the alley, the small sidewalk, the alley. Hart el Yahud of the Jewish. And they were there, they spoke only Arabic. They never went to any schools. Most of them could not read or write. And they were Jewish. So we used to go, not from the Hart el Yahud, people like us who were very wealthy, very, very wealthy, or wealthy enough to give charity, we used to go before the Chagim, before the holidays, and fill their homes with matzah, with wine, with gifts, with clothing, and we felt that we had done our duty as good Jews. And another thing that was very prominent in Cairo, especially, was that our table was enormously spread for all the British Army Jewish serving officers and people in uniform that were far away from home. So by our table, we had Jewish soldiers and Jewish officers in the British Army that were actually from Jewish families, if it was girls, women, or men. And we knew that, English was our second mother tongue, Italian was our first mother tongue, And we could communicate with them, and my mother used to spoil them because of the fact that they were far away from their families. My father used to fill them with pocket money, with gifts, with presents, with everything. And I felt very Jewish about that. And I used to hear I never had a Christmas tree, which also reminded me that I was Jewish. And the neighbors used to say the Jews must be clean, because at least once a year on Pesach, everything is out of the house, big cleanings and everything. On Yom Kippur, we knew we never could look at anything that had to do with the food, because we were fasting on Yom Kippur. So we kept our Judaism in this, symbolic ways. Now, when my father was transferred to Ismailia, a tiny town on Timsach Lake, as I said before, so things changed drastically. The Jews in Ismailia were very good people, very nice people, but very egocentric. They didn't want to mix up with other people, and it was a show-off business that was not that had no justification. We were in good relation with everybody because they chose my father to be the shochet. He used to supply the chicken, kosher chicken for the Hagim. I don't know based on what, because he was not wearing even a kippah. But he was called the shochet. Vittorio Benedetto was the shochet in Ismailia. Very good. Good for you, good for me, because we didn't keep kosher anyway. And I went to the nuns, to St. Vincent nuns, which were very, very aristocratic, because, as I said, all the children of the pilots of the Suez Canal studied there. And the school was very, very, very approved by they visited from the Swiss embassies to see that we were learning the right things and from the right level, and the teachers were the right teachers that were teaching us. And that's where I was. And if my parents didn't come in summer, that they were somewhere around the world, I used to be in charge of the library because I loved to read. And when I was 17 and a half, we suddenly, my father had to travel to Belgium, to Italy, to see some of the family. All our family was in Italy. And my mother had a sister whose husband was in charge of the Pasha business, of Katawi Pasha. And he was on a very high level. But because my father was very, very, very important, aristocratic and whatever, so we could mix with their congregation, with their family, with their people, with their friends. And when I was 17 and a half, one bright day, when I was at the library, because my parents, as I said, were abroad, the Mother Superior came and said to me, "Look, Fernanda, there are 2 officers from the British Army that your father sent to give you a message. So you have our permission to talk to them." So I went out. I mean, I was still in the building, but behind closed doors. They said it was confidential. And one of them in British uniform, the other one was in civilian clothing. The one in British uniform said to me, "We are Ben Ameno." So I said, "I don't understand." To me it was Chinese, Ben Ameno. He says, "You're Jewish, aren't you?" I said, "Yes." "So you don't know what Ben Ameno is?" I said, "No, I never heard it before." He said, "Ben Ameno means we are of your people, we are Jewish. And we are from the Bitachon. We are in the military under these guys. We are wearing a British uniform, but we are Jewish, Israelis, and we need your help." And of course, I was given the importance of being treated as a Jewess for a change inside a school, a convent. I was always aware that I couldn't be Jewish. They were all Christian. They were going to church, and they were sitting under a tree reading a book. All the time they prayed, which was a terrible thing because I wanted to be Jewish, but I didn't have the possibility in an Arab country to express our Judaism. And or our language or anything else. we never had the freedom because it was always Yehudi. Yehudi was a stigma. Yehudi, you could fill them with presents, the servants, and give them and treat them well and treat them as family. All their generations worked for us. The one was doing the laundry, the mother, the other one wanted to be the gardener, the third one was doing the shopping, and the little children were coming and being spoiled. But we were never loved or cared for. We were always the Sahionim, the Zionists, no matter what. And so I said, how can I help you? I'm only 17 and a half, I'm not 18 yet. What can I do for you? He said, no, you know languages, which we need very badly. You can translate Arab papers for us whenever we need. And second, your father goes to cocktails here and there and everywhere, and he's very well known, and you're very well known also in Cairo when you go to Cairo on holidays and so on. And you can supply us with lots of things that we need very badly, because we are in danger and we need very urgently your help. So I said, okay, how can I get out of here? He said, no, I'm telling them that your father is letting you out, and we'll deal with your parents. So I said, okay, if it's like this, I took a bag and I left, and they took me to G branch, directly in Moascar, which was in Ismailia. It's like Haifa, Kiryat Atta at the distance. It was an enormous British camp where all the intelligence was being dealt with in Moascar. And of course, the British and the Jewish and the Zionists and all of them together didn't know who was who. I didn't say a word, I was all mixed up. I knew that I had to help, and that was my duty, and I was ready. Why not? I'm Jewish, I have to do something for my country. Actually, I didn't know where Israel was on the map. I was not a Zionist, I won't lie, but whoever touched one Jew or my people, I went wild. I had the feeling, I have the feeling of a Jewess. So they took me to this camp, and they locked the door of their office, and they said, this is our office, and from here we do all our intelligence service for Israel. Now, tell us what's written in this article in Arabic, and I translate it, and I type it in English. And they had these old Remington machines that made a lot of noise. I typed, and they said, oh, you can type. I said, yes, because we have some typewriters in the office at the convent, and whenever we write poetry, we write something, we type it and we pass it on for everybody to read in our spare time. And they were very pleased with me. They said, you know, you're doing a lovely job, and I stayed there with them. I went back to the convent, and they said your father said that they have to go out whenever they ask you because they have something to do. They were not very, very curious to know what I was doing. And that's how it went for a while, until one day they told me, look, this is not enough. You can do much more for us. Your father is going to a cocktail, they're coming back, we have information. And when he comes back, he goes with your mother to cocktails. And this time the cocktail is being given by the Minister of Interior. And we want you to go instead of your mother. We need something from the office that is in there. Where the cocktail is taking place, they have the offices, the secret offices and you can help us. Okay. So when my father came and my mother, I said, Mommy, can I go with Daddy this time? I would like to see her go. She said, oh, take it from me. Please go with your father. And that was very, very pretty. I was a very pretty girl. A mixture of Liz Taylor and Brigitte Bardot. And my father was very proud to take his daughter with him. And because my elder sister was a professor in Italy since then in Milano, so I was the star. And I went with him, and for my misfortune, the wife of the Minister of Interior was an Italian beauty queen. And the moment she saw me, she said, Fernanda, Italiana? Si, Italiana. And she jumped, she was 2 meters tall, I just reached her hip, and she took me in the air. Que meraviglia, how marvelous, how marvelous. Come with me, leave all these Arabs alone. Leave them with your father, come with me. And I went with her, call me by my name. I called her by her name. Anyway, she sat with me, and I said, my goodness, this is the place where I have to get the documents on my list. And they had in there spies, but not that could get into the drawers and get the I had to steal passports and documents, all clear, from A to Z in Arabic, in that drawer, first drawer. This is his second drawer. Everything was, described, but they couldn't get it out. And I could get it out, but how? So I said to her, you are so beautiful, but I'm sure despite everything, your husband would never take you in his office. She said, of course he takes me. I have the keys. I said, no, I've never been into the office of a diploma of an interior minister. Can I see it? She said, of course you can. She opened, and I saw the drawers, because I had already, I had a photographic memory all my life, but I looked at the document before I went, and I said, I have to get her this letter, this drawer. And I said, oh, Yolanda, oh, it's so wonderful. So she said, you know what? You want to look around? Yes. It's a big office. He said, I'm going to make you an Italian espresso. Nobody gets it, only me. I said, oh, Italian espresso, how marvelous. And she went to make my Italian espresso, and I went and I took and I went and I put in the bag, and I was shaking, I put everything. And she came the espresso, she found me shaking. I said, you know what, I feel very bad. I want to go home. She said, drink the coffee. I said, I can't. I said, call my father. I said, my father, give me the driver, give me the car, I want to go home. I feel very bad. He says, you look very pale. And I went home, and the following day, I called them, wherever they told me to call them. I told them, I have everything for you. He said, are you sure? I said, I'm positive. And this was my victory in big. Then I felt that I had done something great. And they said to me, you know what your title is? You are our military spy. I said, I'm a spy? He said, what do you think you are? I said, oh, and then I realized I was a spy. Because I was doing it with such a good heart. They are giving me such an important job to save my country. I'm a nobody. I'm 1.5 meters of nothing, and I have to save the country. I must be something. And then I was something. I gave them what they wanted of me, and I was 17.5. And I was a spy. And the military spy, thank you. And they said, look, we have big jobs for you. Very big jobs. And then I went around after that. I gave them, of course, the bag. And then I went to they told me to go to the municipality in Cairo. And there was a girl called Aziza. And she was in charge of all sorts of things. And she was very friendly. And being very friendly, as I am until now, I got very friendly with her. And I took one document they needed. And that was it. And then they said, look, now you proved yourself to be extraordinary. And I'm not big-headed when I repeat what they said. I didn't say that, they say that. And they told me, look, we have a job for you. That is the clue for our army. Okay, so they took me to the center of telecommunications. It was enormous. It was enormous. They told me this side and this side is just the usual standard. The center is the military information. Egyptian military information. And we want you to be here, to work here, and to stay here. We are firing all the people that work here, all the Greek girls, the Arab girls. We're going to bring new ones, you are going to train them. We're going to say you came from abroad, from Switzerland, we don't know where, to train them how to be telephone switchboard operators. And you are going to work here, especially nights, that's when they pass on their military information. I said, okay, and that's how it was. I started working, and I passed information that I got here and there and here and there. And one night, the flashy machine goes on, which means there is an SOS military information from Egypt, from the army, and I knew how to get in. I got in, I looked at the big clock, enormous clock. It was 2:20 at night. And I hear, Hamir! Hamir! This is General so-and-so. Hamir in Arabic is donkeys. Chamorim. Chamorim in Hebrew. Chamorim. They played on us. The Sahionim, the Zionists, had somebody to cheat on us. They are not on the east side of the Suez Canal. They are on the west side. And they have all their army displayed. And we have to crush them within 20 minutes, 25 minutes gag, top. فهمتم ولا ما فهمتوش? Did you understand me well or didn't you? Because if you didn't, and this is not done in 20, 25 minutes, then I know have your names. You'll be annihilated by me personally. You have to take the tanks and crush them. As I tell you, from this place to this place, and he started giving directions, exact directions, by the 10 meters distance between this and that. Of course, this I didn't understand anything about the positions, the army positions. But one thing is to be sure, that you crush them to the ground to the point that you don't even see the color of the skin afterwards. Nothing should remember, even the color of the skin should disappear. And now that's all my message. Out, I phoned immediately, say John Izibiki was his name, my direct boss. The other one was Australian Israeli, of course, that said nothing. He was the boss of John Izibiki, but he used to love me very much. He told me, look after yourself. Look after yourself. You are endangering your life, Fernanda. It's not worth anything. Do your job as a good girl, as a patriot, as a Zionist, but look after yourself. And he said to me, don't let go. Until now, I don't know what he meant by that, but maybe I do. And I say, John, we're in big trouble. And I passed the message on to him. He said, my God, my little girl, my God, you see it in the book, it's written. We are not in trouble, we are finished. All our army is on the Suez Canal exactly the way he described it. We are there. And how can we get them off? It's the middle of the night. They are sleeping in tents, etc. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I didn't hear from him for 2 days. After 2 days, he calls me and he says, Fernanda, my little girl, listen to me. We got there and they came with the tanks and they crushed empty tents. They thought the soldiers were in there. And the first thing Golda Meir tells me after that, tell this little girl of ours that because of her phone call to you, John, 700 mothers are not sitting Shiva because they crushed empty tents. And 700 mothers would have been sitting Shiva without her work.
This is the 1956 war we're talking
yes. About. And tell her that I wrote it in my journal because this has to remain in history of what she did. And she was hilarious. Golda Meir was hilarious about you. She told me to tell you personally that if things go all right for everybody, she wants to meet you. Because what you did here, you saved the whole army. We are a handful of people. What is all our army? My little girl, that's how he called me all the time. My little girl. Also, she learned to call me my little girl in the future, Golda Meir, because I had a future with Golda Meir later on, military future, for another business that she wanted to do with me. And that's how it went. And then I carried on. Then they took me from there back to G Branch because there was a problem on passports and things that I had to supply. And one of the very bad days of my life, I came in with a big supply that they needed. And I went, as I was coming into my house, one of the guards said to me, خلي بالك عليكي حطوا عين عليكي look after yourself, somebody has an eye on you, beware. Because they loved me very much, the guards. I used to give them chocolate, I used to give them this, I used to laugh at them, I used to throw my ballet shoes at them, I used to pick them up. I was very friendly with everybody. And I went into the house. I went on the first floor, which was my bedroom, and I did as usual. I put all the things that I gathered for John on the table, and I started marking in red. I was very proud of myself. And then there was a bomb that exploded in the house. It was not a bomb, it was the door of my bedroom. And then the Arab officers with the medals in uniform said, "Enti hatidfa'i b'damek." You're going to pay it with your blood. And he used dirty language. very dirty language. And he said, يا خولة من الشوارع يا وسخة, which means dirty, dirty. You are not a young girl, you are a dirty woman of the streets. You betrayed us. You betrayed us. بعتي دمك. You sold your blood to the Zionists, but you're going to pay. And they caught me from a lock of my hair, and they got the lock out of the root of my hair. I was all bleeding. They said, you see this? This is only the beginning. You are going to pay for it, for what you did. But this is only the beginning. This is nothing. This is sweet. This is sweet like sugar, what we've done now. And I was bleeding and crying, and they said, if we hear your voice crying, we are going to break your teeth the way we broke the teeth of your mother. She is down in the lounge with broken teeth and open head. We banged her with our gun. Go and see her. They handcuffed me, and they took me down the steps, and I saw my mother without teeth, crying, bleeding. Benti, my daughter, your daughter is a spy. No, she's not a spy. You sat by our table. Say, yeah, we ate the poison you gave us. Your daughter is a spy. We're going to kill her. We're going to hang her. She's from this very minute, she's on the list for hanging. She's a spy. She's a military spy of yours. They sent her to spy on us. And you are going to pay for it. You are going to be in the street now. And as I went out, they took me out, and my mother lied there. I saw two ambulances of the Red Cross, and the people of the Red Cross were outside the ambulance with their sign of the Red Cross in uniform, and they say, Mademoiselle, don't talk to us. We are not allowed to communicate with you. Your father is here. We got a notice from Geneva that they want to lynch you, your parents. We are taking them. They are going to look at the house. We're going to make a list, because my parents were very, 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 very rich. My mother had a collection of antiques that only her Beethoven piano, antique Beethoven piano, I could have bought a penthouse in Netanya, and I haven't got a home. And I could have done that. Because also afterwards, when you get from the proper source the story, the continuation of the story, this will be said by a private investigator who knows how to, how to keep you informed of what happened to me by the government with documents which I don't understand much about, but he does. And the book was written about me, and everything will be said to you in a very methodical way, in a very professional way, not by me. Anyway, my parents were going to be lynched, so afterwards I was told that they took my father and mother into their offices of the Red Cross, and they said, you'll be here until we know what fate is awaiting your daughter, which means either I'm going to be hanged and they'll be repatriated to Italy, or we'll be taken if there's a miracle and I'm not hanged, so the three of us will be sent to Italy or anywhere that will be decided when the time comes. And this was the end. My parents never saw their home again, or their properties, or their monies, or anything. I was taken to the citadel. I didn't know it was a citadel because they blindfolded me, and they took me, and I was thrown into a cell, which the cover is on the cover of the book. The cover of the book shows where I was put. I was put in one of the This is a small tower from where people never come out alive. From here they are taken to be hanged or shot, or they stay till they die if they're old enough to wait until they die. And I went there, so they took the handkerchief, whatever I had on my eyes. I was blindfolded till this very minute. And then a woman appeared in uniform, elderly woman, enormous, and she said to me, "Marhaba ya Fernanda," which means welcome, Fernanda. She said, "Now you are in my hands." I said, "What's your name?" She said, "I talk. You shut up." I'll tell you my name when I want to tell you my name. So I sat there. She said, if you don't keep quiet, I know I have strong fingers. I can put them around your neck. But I won't kill you yet because you have a lot to go through first. You have a lot to tell us. You have a lot to do here. And I sat down on the floor, of course. On the floor, it was the size of I don't know.
Four tiles.
4 tiles, but big tiles. And that's all. It was dark. No windows, nothing. There was a sign of half a door, very low door, with an iron bar going through it. And I sat on the floor. She told me, sit. Adi habla. So I sat down and I stayed like this. She says, what have you got to say? I said, you told me not to talk. So she said, tell me something. Why did you do this? I said, عملت ايه? What did I do? She said, you're playing stupid. So I know who I'm dealing with. You try to play cunning or clever with me. I'm going to beat you up. And there's nobody here to stop me. Nobody. So I said, tell me your name. I want to be friendly with you. She said, I want to be a friend with the Adu. Adu is an enemy. How can I be a friend with the Adu Sahiyuni, with the Zionist enemy? I said, but I'm not your enemy. You are a woman like me. I'm a girl, I'm a young girl. I'm sure you have a daughter like me. She says, Sakkari Fomek, shut your mouth. You spy, you dirt, you are a piece of dirt. I said, tell me your name. She said, if you insist, my name is Abla. Abla. I said, Abla, I respect you. You are doing your job. Tell me, where am I? She said, you want to know where you are? You want maybe also a cake and coffee with hell or without hell? Really? Really, what else do you want to know? I said, I want to know where I am, that's all. I want to know where I am. She said, why, to pass it on to your spies? I said, no, how can I pass it on? I'm in your hands. So she saw that while I was talking to her, I had a ring with an aquamarine stone. And she said, I like your ring. I think it will be nicer on my hand than on somebody hanging from a rope. I don't know who will take it when they hang you on a rope. So give me your ring, I'll tell you where you are. I said, take it. So she took it from my finger and she put it on her finger. And she said, looks nice on my hand. Looks very nice on my hand. You are at the citadel. From here nobody comes out alive. But you are not going to die here when you are old, because we won't know what to do with you. Just to feed you. You are on the list for hanging. I already saw when you came in. There are 2 before you, you are number 3. So you have time. So go to sleep now. And I lie down on the 4 tiles. I am 1.5 meters. I just bent like this, like an animal. And I gave in and I fell asleep. But when I woke up, I knew that if I survived, I would be in a trauma all my life. I could never be in darkness. I could never be on my own. And I could never understand why and how I did it. Now, this very moment, after I got to know all I knew, and I remained alive with my trauma, with my losses of health, children, whatever, that will be said afterwards. I wonder why I had a duty. My duty was to bring justice out. Justice. Because I live for justice, and so does my agent, the one that knows all about my story and other people's stories. My private investigator, Michael Raz, will tell you my whole story, because I can't explain to you professionally what happened to me. What happened to me is that I lost a lung. I was burnt all over when they took me to the military tribunal every night on the lower floor. In the basement, they had a military court every night. They stood on a stage. They didn't stand, they sat. I stood in front of them, and they asked me, where are your people now, your army? And when I said, how can I know? I'm locked in a tower. A cigarette will refreshen her mind. They sent a soldier to get a cigarette. It was a cigarette butt, and they burnt me all over. My legs at the back, my neck, my back, my arms. After 60 years, I still have scars all over. They wanted to get to my eyes. They said, let's burn the eye. There's a lot of water in the eye. And then I moved to make sure they don't get in the eye. And I was burned just under my eye and on my forehead. And after 60 years, I tried to cover the scars. But this is nothing compared to the hole I have in my back. Because when they didn't get enough satisfaction, because I said, I don't know, the word I don't know, they say, never say I don't know. And never scream when we burn you. Because every time you scream, we'll burn you again. And again. And again until you learn not to make a sound. But when they got very angry, which I now think that when they were losing the war, they put a big needle in my back, on my left side, in the same place every night in my lung. And when I screamed, and I screamed again, they said, you are going to stop screaming and we are going to stop putting the needle in. And the needle was making a bigger and a bigger hole in my lung, which after some years, I lost my lung into pieces. It was removed by suction. My mother had to come from Italy to help Professor Steiner in Rambam. This is a Chabala, Zu Alba, Professor Alba Tedeschi Benedetto. We cannot remove her lung. We have to put a tube and remove the pieces of lung that remained after the
Kabbalah is like a sabotage.
It was I was tortured. It was torture. It is a Kabbalah. It was Kabbalah. Nothing remained. There are small pieces of lung still stuck on my nerves and my spine, which caused me to scream with pain if I make a wrong movement or if I work too hard sweeping or washing dishes or doing certain jobs that I have to do. But this is beside the point, of course. And the day came when she was telling me, we hang one, we hang two, and she was hilarious. And she was bringing them a glass of water. Let's celebrate, because they brought me water every 3-4 days, just a little bit of water to drink. I don't know every how long, because I didn't have a calendar to know weeks and days and months and holidays and day and night. I knew nothing. I knew I was like a robot, waiting just to be hung or to finish with it, somehow, some way. And they used to bring me a little bit of rice every 3 days. I could throw it to the wall, it would make a hole. And it was dry like nothing. I asked for a piece of bread, for a slice of bread. And she brought me a tiny piece of bread, all green, from it, rotten. She says, would you enjoy this? You see, it's not bread alone. It has something spread on it. And I ate it. And I ate it. I wanted a piece of bread, and I was 18. This is before being hungry in Israel, starving, because they didn't have a slice of bread. But this will be afterwards. And one bright day she came, a black day for me, and she said, Fernanda, today is your day. I'm so sorry for this neck that is going to be cut, this lovely soft skin. But today your tongue is going to come out, you are beyond the rope, and I'll take your eyes out and put them in my lounge. You have beautiful eyes, Fernanda. They'll be in my lounge, and all the guests will come, and I will say, Sabah al-Nur ya Fernanda, and look into your eyes. Sabah al-Nur, Fernanda, means good morning, Fernanda. And I will look at your eyes and say, Ya haram, how stupid she was. Ya haram, it means, what a shame. What a shame. She was such a stupid girl and so beautiful. And she went to look for a blouse. She told me, you know, the Muslims, when they hang somebody, our religion does not allow us to see their skin or their flesh. They have to be covered. And the blouse I brought was probably for somebody. I already weighed 32 kilos. Afterwards, they weighed me the Red Cross. And she brought, I'm going to bring you a proper blouse that covers you all. And as she went to bring, and probably she couldn't find, because it took some time, from that door that she left open, the Red Cross came in, 2 men, Jacquet, written on one, Hubert on the other one, with the Red Cross. They said, Mademoiselle, pas un mot. Don't you open your mouth, not a word. We got a notification from Geneva, probably they alerted your father that you were going to be hung. We are taking you out. Don't say a word because the rope is waiting for you. It's any minute now. And they threw me into an ambulance of the Red Cross, and with the siren, that's how we left. But the worst was coming to me. They took me to their office where I had to face my parents that had become refugees the moment I was arrested. And my parents never forgave me. Because from being diplomats and professor in medicine, my mother, by the way, later on, only lately, in courts, in Israeli courts, and lawyers told me, my mother's cousin, who used to play with me on the floor, my cousin Guido Tedeschi, was the one who taught all the judges and lawyers in Israel law. And he has an obelisk in Gan Sachar in Jerusalem. Guido Tedeschi, my cousin. And it was proved, the judges checked it and said it's true. And the lawyers told me, how could you be from such a family, end up like this? How could you end up like this? And I said, I don't know. You have the answer. Only you have the answer. I haven't got it. I haven't got it. I fell in the hands of crooks. They sold me. I was sold by my own flesh and blood. This I won't forgive them. That my baby was eaten up by fish. Because of them, my first child, my beautiful baby, 4 kilos, with a lovely chin.
Okay, explain what you mean.
This explanation is in the book. Because when I remained with the trauma, first of all, there's a big story coming after that. When we got into Israel, they threw us to the dogs in a ma'abara, if you know what it means. It's a wooden hut.
A transit camp.
It's not a transit camp. It was a permanent camp because we were there nearly 3 years. It's not transit, and we were starving. We didn't have a penny for bread. And they put us in a truck, and I can't go through it again because I'm going to faint right now in my situation. But the problem is my father used to slap me on the face, a diplomat, with all due respect, and say, you ruined us. We are refugees because of you. We're hungry. And as they let us in this empty space with no toilet, no water, no electricity, and the drivers of this truck that brought us like cattle from the ship, from the Haifa port, they said, look for a tzrif, look for a hut, whatever you find. They're all busy, but you may find one. We found half a hut. It was all falling to pieces. And then my father was cursing me. In Italian, Benedetto means blessed, Benedetto means cursed. She said, maledetta. That's what you are. You sold us, the poor Matahari. And he slapped me on the face, while he cursed me in Italian, and the lady stopped and said, excuse me, I live in one of these huts, but we have everything. We have everything. You can't live here. And said, our daughter brought us. And she spoke Italian. She said, I'm from Tripoli. You're Italians? Yes, I'm a diplomat. It's like, like somebody to be locked immediately in a psychiatric hospital. Refugee, I'm a diplomat, my mother professor in medicine. Go and tell anybody this, they can lock you right away. Yes, and I said, they are hungry, where can I get a slice of bread? We have no money, we haven't got anything. No clothing, no money, we haven't got anything, no luggage. From prison. So she said, look, we own the grocery here. My name is Malka Chlafo. We own the grocery in Kiryat Nahum. Kiryat Nahum was Ma'abarat Kiryat Nahum, at the corner of Kiryat Atta and fertilizers. And she said, I may have 2 slices of bread, but not 3. So she brought 2 slices, and I gave each of my parents a slice of bread. And they ate and I swallowed. I was starving and starving. And they ate it and they looked at me. They despised me. They didn't care if I died of hunger or not. They were all mixed up. They didn't know what to do. They pitied me and they hated me, and I don't know what until they died. I had this look in their eye. Until they died, they never forgave me. And my sister put all the family in Italy against me. They all denied my existence. And then later on, she had a will from my father. I also was supposed to get 2.5 million sterling in his will. And she took my home in Israel because she claimed the will. And this is in the book, but this I'm not ready to
Wait, but she took you to court in Israel?
In Israel.
In Haifa, what happened?
In Haifa, but it took years until she took me to court about 10 years ago, 12 years ago. I gave all the lawyers and all the judges, and wherever I gave my speech, people knew the law. She took a very prominent lawyer in Israel. And when
wait, this is important. Essentially, she sued you because the damage you did to your family.
That's right.
And who was the judge, and how did he rule the case?
Now, what happened, my younger son served in the paratroopers, and on Friday nights, his parents, his friends' parents were going a lot abroad, and he used to come to us for Shabbos. And anyway, he was a friend of my Yoni, my young son, in the paratroopers and everything. And one day, at 10 o'clock at night, we got a knock on the door, and my children's father was already blind, getting blind from diabetes before he died, and he was in a wheelchair. And I opened the door. There was the police. And they said, look, we have here a court order, הוצאה לפועל. Your sister, you have a sister in Italy? I said, yes. And she took a lawyer in Israel, and one from the Vatican and one from Milano. She was a professor in nuclear science. She was very wealthy and very well known. You can see.
And what was her name?
Professor Fernanda Benedetto Shapira. I have a dictionary.
So wait, you lost in court and they evicted you from your house? Is that what happened?
No, not really. So she has a will that your father left, and she wants the part. You have the same amount, but I haven't got the will because as a refugee I had no documents, no pictures, nothing at all. Everything was left there. My mother asked the Red Cross to bring her a black bag which has the document of her being a professor in medicine, all the documents she wanted that were important to her. But I had no pictures, nothing. Excuse me. And anyway, I went to a meeting of paratroopers where my son and his son were also there. And his son went and said, Abba, this is Daddy, this is the lady where I have Shabbat, Fernanda. And his father went pale. He says to me, there are lots of Fernandas in Haifa. I said, no. Actually, I don't know anyone except for there's only one donkey in Haifa called Fernanda. It's me. He says, don't be so happy. You have a sister in Italy? I said, yes. Professor Matia? I said, yes. He says, look, I am her lawyer. I am Orech Din lawyer Meir Hefler from 45 Asmaut Street. And your sister paid me a fortune to finish you. Because you ruined your parents, and she's taking a lawyer, Mrs. Modena from Milano, and the lawyer from the Vatican, and she demands the amount of money your father left. She's not to be blamed that you ruined your father and mother. She wants the money no matter what. So now, I had bought a small flat for my parents after 3 years in this hell of a Mabara. And this 2.5 room flat near Kiryat Ata is Shikun of Amidar, whatever. And I have to go back in my history.
It's like a worker's building. It's like a 2-room apartment in a. It's not.
No, it was a flat. It was.
Yeah, but no, explain what kind of apartment that was.
It was an apartment. No, it was an apartment. It was a real apartment. They had their own water and it was a flat, a little flat. And I took a loan because afterwards I was working. Before Golda Meir wanted me to carry on spying, go to Paris and spy. I'll take you out of your parents' hands because she made a lovely cocktail for my parents at the old Technion, and Simcha Faraji, the owner of the Dubex cigarettes, organized this cocktail for us. And they had a lovely table like for us and everything. And the waitress came to my father and told him, this glass is for water, this glass is for wine. And he took the tablecloth and he blew it in the air. He said, I'm a diplomat, you're telling me what glass is for wine, and he slapped me on the face. He said, that's what you brought me to? You should be ashamed, you know who your father is. I have to be put to this level of garbage because of you. And he slapped me on the face in front of Golda Meir. And Golda Meir said, Mr. Benedetto, your daughter is a Giborat Israel. She saved 700 of our boys.
A hero.
A heroine. She's a heroine. She saved 700 mothers from sitting Shiva. I said, I don't care. She sold her parents. She ruined her parents. She destroyed us. And that's what our daughter is. She's a poor Matahari. And I couldn't care less what you tell me about my daughter. And she told me, I have to get you out of their hands because you can't carry on like this. They're going to finish you. They are right. They are right. You know, they have a teuda, my parents, of Asirei Zion.
A certificate.
Yeah, they have a certificate of prisoners of Zion. And, I mean, Michael has all the documentation of my parents and mine and everything. He does the professional side, the side that proves what I'm saying. Everything I say, he proves. Because I can say, you know, when I came to Israel and afterwards, and the father of my children was a captain on the ships. And, you know, we were on a very high standard. And he said, I was talking once, I got a pain in my lung. So we were sitting with the Anglo-Saxon community because he didn't know Hebrew. And I got a pain, so somebody very close to us from Scotland said, what's the matter, Fernanda? So he said, the father of my children said, she has a pain because she has no lung. So his wife says, oh yes, you know, she had cancer and she had the lung removed. Because I didn't tell my story to people. So he said, no, my wife didn't have a cancer at all removed. No, she was tortured in Egypt, in prison. So the man says, oh, so Fernanda was in prison. Are you here? To his wife, you hear Fernanda was in prison? So she said, yes, if she was in prison, I'm the Queen of England. I'm the Queen of England if she was in prison. Get me a drink, please. And from that day I said, never, never again I'll talk about it. And I was hermetically closed. I didn't tell the story because I had to suffer humiliation and everything you can imagine.
Oh, well, let's go to the end and then we'll go back. So the Israeli court confiscated your apartment because you lost.
I appeared in court without a lawyer because I couldn't afford a lawyer. It was really, I can say it, I was very busy with the medication. It cost hundreds of thousands of shkalim for medicines that were not in the Kupat Cholim, and I had no head for
part
lawyers.
Of your HMO plan.
So I appeared in court without a lawyer, and the judge was fantastic. He said to me, look, I'm going to cancel today, and you are going to come back again in a week or two, find a lawyer. You have lost in anticipation.
But who is the judge?
Anyway, Meir Hefler was the lawyer.
No, who was the judge?
The judge was Dov Levin. So he said, you have lost in anticipation. Your sister, we studied every side with her lawyers. Her lawyer says that the Ottoman bank where the money was has been confiscated. The money was confiscated by the Egyptian authorities. The money is not anymore your father's money. You are the one that prevented her. You can lose your part, but she demands hers. So Meir Hefler came to me and said, look, I have something to propose. You finish paying the mashkanta, the mortgage, for your parents' flat. So anyway, my mother was killed on the road after my operation. After she helped the doctor to remove my lung, we will never know if she committed suicide or if she was run over. The driver of the car said that he found her in front of the car. So I said, I work on the roads, I drive, and I'm not going to let you lose your license because you also work on the road. Mr. Schreiber. So I'm going to cancel my
complaint.
My complaint.
Wait. So what year was this that your mother died?
11th of January 79. Okay. And then operation end of 78.
So, let's go back. How did you meet your first husband?
So this is a long story because I was going to Paris. I was all packed to go and spy, and she told me you are going to get $1,000 a month and plus bonus for clothing and the car.
She meaning Golda Meir.
Yeah, she was with me 14 times. I had examination with Bedek. Bedek is the Israel aircraft industry, and I was going to be their spy for aircraft spy. In the Israeli embassy as a military spy in the embassy. I was their official military spy in Paris. $1,000 a month. And all I had to do was a bit of secretarial work to get the documents they needed, and I had to go to cocktails, and she said, you may even find a nice millionaire there in Paris. You're a beautiful girl. Okay, so that was it. I didn't go to Paris. Why? Because as I was going to sign the contract, I find out that they lied to me, and they didn't tell me to read the contract, just sign here and b'sha'a tova, in a good hour. I read the contracts, and it was written $600. I said, 600 is not 1,000. Oh, no.
So the Israeli Mossad lied to you?
They lied to you again, to me. They lied to me again, and I said no. Either you make it 1,000 or I don't go, and I left. On my way back home, my mother had already felt that I was feeling suitcases, whatever. On my way home, I met my mother's friend, an Italian woman, and she told me, you are destroying your family again. You have no heart. And she attacked me on the bus. She said, you are cruel, you are this, you are that. She said, you know, a family came from England with containers full of classical music, record, Italian, and so on. They are from England, and let's go and get them some dozen records. They will forget you. Music, makes them forget you, everything. So I went with her. I went to Kiryat Ata, and she was friendly with the people. She translated for them because they didn't know any Hebrew. So she knocked on the door. Sonia, how are you? I brought you a nice young girl here. She wants to talk to you. And so she said, yes, sit down. She brought her antique cups and, you know, all the crockery and all the beautiful English tea and cake. I baked a cake. Oh, you're lucky. I baked a nice cake. All the antique furniture in Kiryat Ata. And we start talking. She says, Sonia, I want you to sell her some records, please. I want a present for Fernanda. She's going to Paris, and she wants to spoil her parents with a nice present. So she said, it's all in the containers. We're opening a shop. We can't sell her records. And now she's talking to me. She calls Johnny, come and see a nice girl, come and see. And she says in Yiddish, she says, look, our son is going to marry a shiksa, and look what a lovely girl comes up to our doorstep. And as I said this, a door opens, and a 1.89 m football player from Tottenham comes out, says, Mom, I want a cup of tea. And he said, oh, this is Alec. This is our son. He's a captain on the ships. And he says, who is she? He says, she's a nice girl, Jewish from Israel. He says, I can see that. Anyway, this is our son. He's going to Mallorca to get married.
So wait, Alec was in the Israeli Merchant Marine?
The same company brought him to Israel. Okay. The same company.
So he was supposed to marry a Gentile woman in Mallorca.
He was going to get married. So anyway, he took me home. He took his father's car. He took me home. And he said, you're not going to Paris? You're not going to, I heard the whole conversation, you're going to Paris, you're not going to Paris, you're going to go out with me. I said, no, I'm not going to out with anybody, I'm not going to be attached to anybody, it's just, there is an amendment in my contract, and I'm going to Paris. My suitcases are already ready. He said, okay, any meantime, it's Thursday, tomorrow we are going dancing in Naharia with another couple from England. Anyway, I went dancing in Naharia, And I was waiting for the contract to be there, and he was coming to work. I was working in duty free, and my boss was also from the Bitachon, and he saved my life.
From security?
He was from security, and he saved my life. I was going to be kidnapped once. They made an appointment with me in Kiryat Bialik.
Who's they?
The unknown people. And he said, "You're not going." They talked to me on the phone. I know who they are. He sent somebody else. She's not coming. They told me, take an umbrella and don't tell your parents, don't tell anybody. Come and meet us, we have something good for you. And don't tell them when you're coming back, because you may be going to do something interesting for you. And he said, I know who they are. Anyway, this boss was really, he saved me. And this Alec was coming to take me from work with the car and on and off. And then he said, look, I have to sail. And it's not a joke. I have to sail on the ship. And you're not going to Paris. I brought you an engagement ring. We're getting married. And okay, so the people of Bedek came to my wedding after 14 examinations. And I was ready to go, and I passed the examination up to here. Everything, footsteps and fingerprints and teeth and brain, and everything. And so we got married, and I went on the ship. But no, I cannot marry you, because I have some traumas from prison. I cannot be alone at home. After sunset, I cannot be alone at home, until now. Number two, I can't have any test to go on the ship, because I can't see a needle. 4 people have to hold me until now to take blood. I haven't got a blood test for 20 years, because I'm afraid of needles. And I have witnesses from my Kupat Cholim in Haifa that the neighbors upstairs used to come down to hold me to take blood, and the doctor himself had to take blood. And so this was the fear of the needles, the trauma, and I can't be alone, and this and that. He says, okay, you are going to sail with me. I got a permit. You are going to live on the ship. I sailed 15 years. I lived on the ship for 15 years. But because of this, I ruined my life. Because after 2 years, I had to give birth. And he said, look, I'm going off the ship. We are arriving in Haifa 2-3 weeks before the date. At least a month, 3 weeks. So I'm getting off, and I have 3-month holiday. And afterwards, I'll take another 3 months, and then you sail with the baby again. Okay? And I sailed with him, and there was a storm. There was a strike in Canada, about 2 weeks, so we were delayed. There was a strike in New York, and I was on Canal Street, and I got a message from the captain of the ship that we were delayed. So not to hurry back to the ship. The ship is delayed. We're not sailing, at least for another 10 days. Here and there we were delayed. And 8 hours before arriving Haifa, there was a storm of 25 meters. I have the newspaper drama on high seas. You saw the newspaper drama on high seas. And everybody was busy saving the ship. They were there. They blew. I mean, they told me on loudspeaker from the bridge to the cabin, 11 ships sank, Nanda.
Wait, where were you? Where was the?
We were on high seas on the way back to Haifa.
In the Atlantic.
No, Mediterranean. Right, 8 hours from Haifa.
Right near Cyprus.
Yeah, the nearest was Cyprus or Alexandria.
Oh.
So
somewhere northwest of Israel.
Exactly, 25.
In the Mediterranean Sea.
Exactly. So we were 25 meters waves we had, and I was thrown on my tummy, and I gave birth on the spot. And I was in a pool of blood. On
the deck of the boat?
No, I was in my cabin.
Oh, in the cabin, okay.
In my cabin. No, I couldn't be on deck. I would have blown up with 25-meter waves. The ship was, was nearly overturning. Every time a wave came, the ship was nearly overturning. You know, I've been to hurricanes, typhoons, everything you can think of. That was the end of the world. The end. I was never afraid. I used to look after people that were seasick, seamen. And I found myself, and I saw the baby there. I saw he was attached to me, my first baby. I knew nothing. And I pulled myself to him, and I took him. I looked at him, had a lovely chin, lovely baby. And I put him on my chest and I passed out. I passed out and I woke up after 3 weeks in Cyprus, Akrotiri, in the hospital of the Royal Air Force. And the pathologist was by my side. They were on the verge to put me in a plastic bag in the refrigerator. And they told me, listen, you had clinical death 17 seconds. 17 seconds full. It's written down. We were on the verge to refrigerate you until you arrive in Haifa. And the captain is a witness. I have the document, pathologist, Royal Air Force, Akrotiri. Pronounced dead. Complete cardiac arrest. Then a certain movement of the hand betrayed them. And they put, then I had 3 weeks cerebral death, brain death. And after that, they said I was having again clinical death, and they were ready to bury me this time, and then I woke up. That's when the Rebbe of Lubavitch, exactly at the same minute, had the phone call that I was dying.
You essentially were in a coma.
They don't know, brain damage, brain death. I had brain death. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I asked where the baby was. And my partner told me like this, he's dead. I said, where? He did to me like this. I said, what do you mean like this? Where's the baby? And they started screaming. And they said, we can't, I said, Captain Shapiro, keep quiet, keep quiet. And they shouted, keep quiet. She is going to die again. Keep quiet. And they told me, you'll know all about the baby, but not now. And anyway, they said, be careful. Never take a sleeping pill in your life. And not a sedative. Because you will have an inclination not to wake up. You'll be inclined not to wake up from any sedative or sleeping pill. You'll carry on eventually. But we are just warning you, be careful. Okay? Because they told them that my mother was a doctor, a professor, and I was very interested in medicine and this and that. And then after that I came to Israel. And at the airport, there were lots and lots of journalists. And one journalist said, no, she is mine. Bruria Avidan, I am her journalist. Now this Bruria Avidan that wrote this drama Beleviam in the Laisha, when she saw my book, she said, a few months ago I went to her house. She took the book, can I have it? I said, yes.
So she wrote the book?
It's a scoop.
Wait, she wrote a book about...
I don't want it.
She wrote a book about the storm, right?
Not a book, an article in the Laisha.
About the storm of the time.
About me, my clinical death, my story.
Your story.
Yeah, okay. In 64. 64. So when I phoned her, I said, look, I'm the one, I said, I remember everything about you, 64. And I asked you, boy or girl, and you told me, no boy, no girl, and you got mad at me. I said, no, I didn't get mad at you, but I have a book on a scoop for you. She said, come to my home. I went to her home in Tel Aviv. She took the book. She said, January, you are in my magazina, in my journal. My magazina, you'll have your book, your story.
In an Israeli woman's magazine that's equivalent of Cosmopolitan. It's called Laisha, right?
She used to be in Laisha. Now she has a magazina. Magazina once a month.
What's it called?
Magazina.
Okay.
Magazina is all sort of vanities. Very cheap magazine. I didn't know. I had never seen it before. But it's very cheap. All advertising, this and that. Beautiful, ugly, lot of gossip. I don't know. Never mind. It's her style. I sat there. She looked at the book. Oh, that's how I remembered you. You will be in my magazine January. I go to Stemansky. No, it has been delayed for a while, the magazine. It's the first time it happens. It was delayed. I go February. It was delayed. March. I pay 25 shekel. I look at the magazine. Nothing.
So she intentionally forgot about you.
She didn't forget intentionally. I suppose it was not intentionally. She was convinced to be intentionally. Whatever. So I phoned, I said, look, I've been waiting. She closed the phone. Michael phoned, said, listen, what about Fernanda in the magazine? She closed the phone. Everybody has a price. And I couldn't care less. It was not of my standard, I'm happy. Because other people want my book. People who are distinguished and aristocratic want to hear my story. And others, I don't care. They don't have to my story. What I want you to tell the whole world, what Michael is going to tell you.
Wait, but first let's... So, with your first husband, you had 2 boys.
So I had after that 2 boys. Yes, one is a lawyer and
both were born at sea, or when you...
No. At the end of my pregnancy, I went home for 3 months, the last holiday, and then it took 3 months off until they had all their injections and vaccinations. I didn't take them on the ship, and the eldest, until he got all his vaccinations, I brought somebody to live in with me all the time, 24 hours a day. I had not to be alone. I can't be alone until now. And the second one, he was at home for a while on his own account, and he stayed home. And then I stayed with the children till their bar mitzvah. That's when he got ill and he had to stop. He got 3 heart attacks.
And when did he pass away?
On the 1st of June 2010. It's going to be 7 years.
So what happened in the trial when your sister took you to court in Haifa?
So I gave her the flat, my parents' flat. I signed to Hefler.
You were forced to, or you get...
No, they told me you have a choice. It's not going to be good for you. You don't know where to bring the money from. This is a big amount of money. When the court told me, the judge and Meir Hefler and the 2 Italians that came just for an hour and they never saw them again, they told me that I had to pay my sister what she intended to get, and she was not going to give up a penny of what I owed her. So I should find a way of getting the money. So Hefler, who was very close to me because of the children and everything, came to me and asked the judge, can I ask you a question? And he came to me and said, tell me, are you ready to sign your parents' flat to your sister, but it won't cover even half of the amount, maybe half. So I said, of course I'm ready. He said, but people, it's on a rented basis, and I was in terrible trouble because my children's father hadn't been working for ages. A captain who got 3 heart attacks, cannot sail anymore. He was ill and getting blind already and everything, in a wheelchair, and I didn't know what to do. I mean, I said I have to go to work, but I won't pay my salary because I have to live on it. He didn't have any pension or anything. There was no pension and nothing for seamen then, until he did something, Amir Peretz, and by then he was not sailing already. So I said, yeah, I'll sign the flat, I'll tell the people that I have to sell it, I'll sign the flat, so you don't have to tell anything. The court will take care of everything. You just sign, and they put it on auction sale, they know what to do. We don't deal with it, but it won't be enough. So what can you do? I said, you know something? He said, where you are living now, you have any debts on it? I said, actually, I have a debt because I closed the mortgage when he got here because I couldn't work and pay the mortgage and live on it, survive. So I put it on a very high interest, and I closed the mortgage, which was going to be monthly, nearly 3,000 shekel, 2,800. When he was selling, I was paying it. So there is a sum left, a certain sum left that has to be paid, and otherwise I have no debts at all, excuse me, to anybody. They said, okay. So they signed that if I sell the flat, they're not taking it as long as I live in it. But if I sell it at the taboo, the registration office is marked that the money that comes from the flat to a certain amount is going to my sister in Italy, Professor so-and-so, to the amount that it meets what I owe her. In the meantime, I found out that my sister owed me about $100,000 from the times when she was studying, and I told Hefner, tell me something. He said, don't say anything. I'm going to do something about it. And put the money in your tabu as an entrance money towards the debt. And whatever remains from the sale, give her. And you are free. So anyway, after he passed away, I slept a few nights in public gardens, in public parks, because I couldn't sleep on my own. It was a very big place, very big home, with a garden.
But you lost your home because of your greedy sister.
No, but I mean, the moment he died, and I was still on the verge of selling it, because it was not easy. There were 71 steps. It was a garden flat, semi-detached, with South African family. I had an enormous lawn garden, and then there was a forest, a little forest, and overlooking the sea. And on the way to the university, you know, if you know Haifa, it was on Einstein Aleph, which is overlooking the sea, because with my lung, I even in Netanya, I have the sea near me, because I need the sea. It's not tuberculosis, but I need the sea air to get my oxygen. I need sea air, and I can't be too far. And when I came to sell it, and I found somebody that had a daughter, a niece, that was very much like the Bronte sister. She wanted macabre places, which means a forest and a lawn, very secluded, without a voice, without a human being. And I went to the tabu. They said, you can't sell it, you have a debt. And then I remained with 30,000 shekel from my flat. And I rented a flat. That's where Michael...
So in other words, you lost your home,
yeah,
because of your greedy sister,
yeah,
and you were left virtually penniless,
mm-hmm,
and not. And that what year was that?
2000 and 1 minute,
2008.
2012.
And then since then you've been in straits, economic straits, because of that. And then
no, I've been all the time.
Right. So
because I was asking the Bituach Leumi for help. They wouldn't give me.
This is the Israeli health insurance, whatever.
I had to pay a fortune to lengthen by 1 day or 1 week or 1 month the life of my children's father. And they said, Mommy, how can you cope? There were medicines that were not included in the Kupat Cholim, in the
HMO.
That's right. And I wanted to show the children that I was doing my best. I took my children's salaries. They were working on a Vespa to learn. I took
on a motorcycle, yeah.
They worked on a motorcycle, on deliveries, on whatever, and they gave me the salary to buy medicines for their father. I did everything I could to buy him medicines. I took some checks that they received as their wedding day gifts. They gave me everything they had. They went to study. One is a lawyer, one is a master in economy, and everything you can imagine, just to lengthen the life of their father by 1 month, by 2 months.
All right. So you're not recognized. You weren't recognized all those years as a prisoner of Zion.
I was recognized as a Asir Tzion.
When?
But not military.
Yeah, but you never got any money. It was just you got like a certificate or something.
I got a certificate and no money, because they said all my file got lost.
In other words, it's a serious scandal. Because all those, like what was called the Esek Bish, when they were in the underground and they got caught, in the 50s, all those Zionist youth movement members in Egypt, when they got out of jail and they came to Israel, they got monthly allotments. Somehow you were shafted, and from your story it sounds like you were shafted viciously.
Now, the people I met, and I won't say names, at the meeting with Levana, and you were there. I met some people.
Wait, Levant, you gave a public lecture at the Egyptian Immigrant Association
when the Italian
in Tel Aviv.
Was late. The Italian that had to give the lecture at Levana, Kenes, she came late. She went to Herzliya instead of this. So I spoke. Right. And after that, 2 people talked to me. And you know my story. I mean, they don't know my story, but you do. And they started asking me questions. They are from Egypt, and they say they got a degree, and they got a grade, army grade, and they got a salary. So why didn't I? I said, because they say they lost my file. And after that, they were not very interested to talk to me, not to go into detail. I said, maybe you can give me a clue how I could get what they need. No, you take lawyers, you can do, each one is different. We said I never got any help from anybody because people were afraid to get to what they were getting. Never mind, Labriut, they say in Hebrew, bless them all. They should be healthy and get what they got. They got as Sgan Aluf, most of them.
Lieutenant Colonel.
Yeah, and Aluf Mishne. One of them...
And one was a colonel.
Yeah, Aluf Mishne.
So in other words, they got pensions equivalent to the salary of a military colonel for being in Egypt in prison or whatever.
Exactly. The man looked in my eye and said, you lost a lung. You lost a child that was eaten up by fish. I found out afterwards. For 2 years I looked for the grave of my baby. And one day I carried on sailing and learning pharmacology and naturopathy in Japan, and I have a degree. I worked in pharmacies and everything. One day I walk in the street in Haifa. I was buying grapes to take to the ship for my next trip, and somebody says, Mrs. Captain, I want to tell you something. And I look, I said, am I supposed to know you? He said, oh, I'm offended. I was on the ship with you. I used to bring you the steak and baguette for your baby to be healthy by the pool. And you don't... I said, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. He said, don't be happy to see me. I have something very, 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 very difficult to tell you. I have cancer, he says. I don't want to go to my grave with this secret. And it's not going to be late. It's going to be soon. I am looking for you for 2 years. I said, yes, what have you got to tell me? He said, after they took you by helicopter, the safety maneuver and everything to Cyprus, your cabin remained open. And I was the waiter, the captain's steward. And I went to lock your cabin because all the money of the salary was there. He used to pay the salaries, the captain, and all my jewelry, all my belongings. I lived on the ship. He said, I went to lock the cabin. I saw a baby in a pool of blood.
Dead or alive?
He says, I looked at him. He was detached. Nobody knew there was a baby there. They wanted to save the ship. They were in a storm. Who knew there was a baby there? Nobody. They were only men. And the men were busy and your cabin is on the top. Who comes to the captain's cabin? I went to lock it. He said, I'm a Moroccan. And Moroccans, although they are not religious, but they have Judaism in their heart. I never sailed without a talit or how do you call it?
Tefillin.
Tefillin.
Phylactery.
He says, yes, I took the baby, I washed him. He was all blood. I washed him. He was gorgeous. 4 kilos.
Was he living or dead?
He was dead. Oh. He says, I wrapped it in my talit. I looked for another 9 Jewish boys on the ship because there were lots of foreign crew. 9 and me 10. We said we're going to put him in the refrigerator. I was on the way to the freezer, and the border police say, stop. No corpses go ashore. Bakasha. Sea burial. This is a navigation order. Sea burial. She says, I was shaking. I told the boys, come, let's make Kaddish. We made Kaddish and we threw the baby in the sea. I said, what? What? And I started screaming. If you know where is the subway in the lowest part of Haifa, Kikar Paris, I was by the entrance. I threw the grapes, I threw the bags. I said, my baby, my baby. And he started screaming, what did I do? My city, I killed the woman. And people started, what did he do? A knife? I said, no, he gave me some very bad news, and he had to give it to me, and he ran away. He never saw him again until now. I don't know, him is not alive. And then I knew what happened to my baby, and when I went back to the ship, I think this is what caused the diabetes. It triggered it to him, my partner. I think this is what triggered it, because he became very pale. And he says, I don't want you ever to tell me again that our baby was eaten up by fish, because you are to be blamed. You are a murderer. You are a murderer. You should have sat at home. The prison gave you a trauma. They should go to hell, the prison and the trauma and the Israelis. My first baby. We will never have a Pidiona Ben. Never. And he wanted to divorce me for a long time. And then his mother said, Alec, she's the mother, she lost the baby. You have to understand. You have to understand that it's her baby, not only your baby. He said, Mommy, a whole generation she threw away. I said, I told you I couldn't stay at home. Doesn't make me feel any better, he said. I lost my baby. And not one night I go to bed without seeing the face of this little baby. Not one night. I fall asleep, I swear to you. The pain in the lung, he's he has empathy for me like nobody had. Michael Raz. Michael Raz says, want a glass of water? Can you breathe? Shall I open the window? He doesn't know what to do for me to have air and to feel better.
So you married Michael, who's a private detective.
So when he didn't know my story. He didn't know my story. I was his secretary. I was his secretary. And he wrote the book about radiation. And show me the book. Please, Slicha, please. This is the book. This book is before my book. This is his sixth book. Sefer HaShishi, his sixth book. Michael Yitzchak Raz.
These are about the mass radiation treatments against Sephardic and Oriental Jewish kids in the 50s, of which there, from what I know, maybe Michael has different knowledge, there were at least 120,000 victims.
At least.
Okay.
All the dangers of radiation. So I sent a letter with this book to the Queen of England, because he wanted Michael, a secretary that knows languages. So a book went to the King of Morocco, and he sent a letter, thank you. I sent a book to the Pope, and he replied in Italian, mille grazie signora, thank you for the book that is life-saving. Now, the Queen of England wrote a letter, it's here on the wall, from Buckingham Palace, saying, I'm not supposed to receive any gifts, but I am making an exception. So, anyway, one day they came to me from Superfarm where I was working, and they told me that I used to go once a month to Eilat. I drove thousands of kilometers every month, and then things were not so good in the Department of Nature where I worked, and things were not so good, which means the situation of the whole department was a bit shaky. And I knew that I had to find a job, because I have nothing. I only have my Bituach Leumi. So
your national health insurance.
That's right. So where I was going to pay my rent from? I had no money for a rent. So my salary went to the rent, and the Bituach Leumi was for maintenance and taxes and expenses and whatever. So when I saw that my job was balancing a little bit too much. The same day I arrive home, and the owner of the flat, my landlady, says to me, I'm sorry to tell you, we are getting old, we want to sell the flat. So in one day I got it all, that this and that, and when he used to phone me after my shifts, and he used to dictate me letters, and I used to send them. So I told him, no, don't dictate, don't do anything, because I haven't got the head, I have to this and that. Now, I told him that I had to find a job. He said, you don't have to find a job to pay your rent. You can come. I'm also moving into another flat without radiation. I'm looking for a flat without radiation. And you can come and you can move and be here. And because he spent all his money for Baranes, to get Baranes.
All right, so you were in Haifa, also Michael. You met in Haifa, and then you...
I never saw him.
What?
All this time I worked for him, I never saw him.
Oh.
He dictated, no.
Oh,
I was his private secretary.
But you moved to Netanya.
But I didn't work anywhere, at home in Haifa.
Ah, okay.
I did everything from Haifa. And we had long conversations about Baranes, because he got Baranes out of jail.
Okay, this is an Israeli who was accused for a murder and was 27 years in jail, and he was innocent and eventually pardoned, but he was a victim of the system.
Yeah, the system, but it was...
They torture him and they make false evidence and false polygraph. This is not a system that one people is sitting in jail. Thousands of people sitting in jail, they are not guilty because they sign in torture. So I wrote 5 books about this, and I take them out from jail. Baranes was one of them.
Forced confessions.
With torture.
Forced confession, that's right.
בכפייה. כן, בטח. או שאני יושב פה.
This is Michael Raz, who's Fernanda's husband, and he's a private investigator, and they live in Netanya, Israel.
אני הכרתי אותה בעקבות שהיא תרגמה עבורי מכתבים שהייתי צריך לשלוח, ולא נפגשנו איזה שנה עד שהכרתי אותה, לא ידעתי מה שהיא עברה, וגם לא סיפרה לי.
So in short, Fernanda translated from Michael, and only it was all long distance, and then after a year, he realized sort of who she was, but he didn't know her story.
One day after we married, she came back from Bar Ilan and told me, you know, they told me that Dayan didn't want us to come back. I told her, yes, I have the letter of the Rosh Mossad in my books. I have from Amit. That Dayan
Wait, Mayor Amit testified that Moshe Dayan didn't want Fernanda to come to Israel.
He didn't want the Esek HaBish. It was 2 Esek HaBish. Fernanda was the second, Safiach. So the Shofet that sit in the...
So in other words, the first spy... the first spy gang, it was exposed, and it was an intelligence failure on Israel's part, and the youth movement activists who were jailed, and it brought down the government in Israel. But what you're saying is that Fernanda's case is the second episode of the Israeli intelligence planter in...
They lie to Ben Gurion, they lie to Rosh Mossad. They make a politic because they want to rule the country, and the Knesset don't know about them.
Right, because there's no surveillance. You're talking about the Israeli intelligence community going wild.
Yes, but they make big crimes. The people who was the head of the intelligence, it was before Ghibli. Ghibli was the chief of the intelligence that did the Esek HaBish in Mitzrayim. But before, when he was in 48, הם הרגו, רצחו רב סרן טוביאנסקי, וירו בו ולא הודיעו למשפחה. זה היה הסקנדל הראשון, ב-30 ליוני.
So Ghibli's connect, they killed this captain, Mayor Tobiansi, and they didn't tell the family.
30 June 48, but in 30 June
July
June 24, they killed this before group, Daan, Professor Israel Daan.
Oh, that's earlier in the 20s.
Yes,
okay.
but the same systems, and the government now.
So this is like the intelligent wing of the Zionist movement, which became the state.
Okay, yes. And now, because they have power, and they didn't want to be stopped by the government. They didn't tell the government and not the prime minister and not Ben-Gurion. Ben-Gurion fired and he went to Sde Boker because they lie to all the delegation. And I talk with, you know, was Meir Zorea. Meir Zorea was the...
Who was Meir Zorea?
Meir, General, you have here, he wrote, this is General Meir Zorea. He wrote me letters that is the end of the country because they are the dangers.
He was the head of the intelligence community.
Yes, he told me he was the people who make revenge in the German in 46 of the Brigada.
Right. In other words, in retaliation for the Nazis doing what they did, he was in charge of Jews knocking off Nazis.
Yes, but
afterward.
He was a brigadier. A major in the army of the Britain that conquests Germany.
Right. He was in the British army in the unit which conquered Germany.
So and he told me that he kills a lot German as revenge, but he don't hate the German. In the Yom Kippur War, the Syrian killed his son. He was a pilot. He don't hate the Syrian, but Yossi Ginosar, the Israel Shabak, he will not forgive because they lied to him.
Okay, so wait, Yossi Ginosar, he's a controversial figure in Israel. He was a Mossad agent.
Shabak,
or the internal security. So Hazorea will not forgive Ginosar for what he did, which was...
They blame a general, Yitzhak Mordechai, for crime, for killing 2 Arabs. They did.
Oh, that was the episode of the 300 bus. They framed him. Yes. When the Mossad killed the Arabs,
the Shabak kills him.
They framed Mordechai.
These systems starts not now. This Ghibli makes these crimes before the country nasced in 14. They have
before the birth of the state. This is the pre-state, even that you had this warped intelligence ring, which did whatever it did and killed all sorts of people precariously.
Now the government don't know about the things. So they rule the country. They take a lot of people to work for them, but they don't tell the government, the Knesset, that these people are mesurim lehem, you know, they
are subservient to them. The issue here is there's no scrutiny in the Knesset over the intelligence community, as opposed to like the Senate in America and the Congress. They surveil the CIA. In Israel, there's very little surveillance of the intelligence community and the agents on the ground.
I wrote 5 books about innocent people. Because the lawyers of the government that make this crime become some of them after judges. So this is the system that make thousands of people innocent sitting in jail, and one of Ruth David, the lawyer that makes this crime, is now charged. You can see.
She's charged of
corruption.
Right, for
and she
not indicted. She was deemed innocent. Deemed guilty.
She caused to die of one David Wiener, the lawyer of Baranes, because
she caused his death.
Yes, because before he died, he wrote a letter that she is responsibility of his death.
So she took revenge on him. Now I noticed you got a picture there of Uzi Meshulam. Tell the people watching this who Uzi Meshulam was.
So I want to start. I found, and I wrote a book before 30 years. How they still? I will bring you the book. I wrote a book about the stealing of Yemen children that starts in the 15 years. בשנות ה-50.
In the 1950s. It actually started in 49. Okay, in the 1950s, yeah.
So this man, Said Ovadia,
yeah, who was he?
He was a father that they steal his daughter. How they steal? When he came to Israel, when he arrived to Israel in 1950,
came 1950,
came a sister a blonde from that were with them in Machane Chashed in Aden, and took the, she have two wives.
Not a, you mean a nurse. A nurse stole the baby in the internment camp Chashed in, that was in Aden, where the Yemenite Jews went before they were flown to Israel.
So he told me when I arrived to Israel, this woman, the blonde, came to and took away this little baby, 10 months, Zohara.
So her name was Zohara what?
Zohara Said.
Okay.
Zohara. So I told him, bring me the identity numbers.
So what you're saying, as we know as researchers, the kidnapping didn't start in Israel, in the Mabarot, in the transit camps. It started in Yemen, in the internment camp.
No, the plane was there because this sister were there with them. She nurse came to Israel from the airplane. She took the girl of 10 months of.
She kidnapped her. Wait, but was this nurse? Did she work for the Joint, or was she independent?
Joint.
Okay, so this nurse who kidnapped, she was an employee of the Joint Distribution Committee from the United States, correct?
I don't know, but I know.
She was American? Or you don't know? She just had blonde hair.
But I found the system how they did it. So I asked him, bring me the number of the identity, מספר זהות. He haven't. So between his and one of the women, we have two women, was the number 4274687.
So you're talking about a matching Israeli identity number.
So I took this number and I put it in the ביקורת גבולות at the...
In the computer system of the entrances into Israel from the Interior Ministry.
But it's written that in year when she were 16, she left with a passport to outside.
Okay, so this is what we know now, that at the age of 16, she left Israel. So in other words, let's say if the girl was kidnapped in 49 or 50, somehow it's written in the system of the Israeli Interior Ministry of entrances and exits that she left the country at the age of 16, and if I can take liberty as a research, this is a common alibi that we know today.
But what was the big crime? After 2 weeks, הם מחקו את הביקורת גבולות ומרשם התושבים.
So wait, after 2 weeks, in the system, all the evidence of her being there was erased.
So Rav Meshulam told me.
So Rabbi Meshulam, Uzi Meshulam,
told me that he know the people from the Shabak that did these things.
From the internal Israeli intelligence, yes.
His name is Ilan Raz.
Right.
And he have evidence about ניסויים רפואיים בילדי תימן הקטנים.
In terms of medical operations, medical experiments of captured or kidnapped Yemenite Israeli babies.
הוא גם מת בצורה מוזרה, הוא היה בבית חולים.
Wait, who are we talking about now?
אבל עוזי משולם.
Okay, right. So Uzi Meshulam was arrested. It's a whole episode, but he was tortured in jail. Eventually, he died.
He died ואמרו לי.
He died later, but
שהזריקו לו חומר ביד בבית חולים עפולה, והוא מת מנמק במוח.
Right. So Michael is saying that in the hospital in Afula, they injected. What did they inject into him?
לא יודע, שגרם לו נמק במוח.
Or they injected something that caused I don't know, brain tumor, brain defect that killed him.
אמרה לי זאת, א' שין אמרה לי זאת, א' שין אמרה לי זאת, א' שין. עכשיו, מה...
So Aleph Shin told him.
הם ירו, בסיפור של משולם, ירו באסונים, מההליקופטר בגב והרגו אותו, את הסונים.
Okay, so well, this is controversial, but so there was a shootout between Uzi Meshulam and his followers and the Israeli police, okay? So wait. So what Michael is saying is that from above, from the helicopters, they shot one of the activists named Asulin.
אסולין. עכשיו, יש פה חומר שפקיד בכיר, פאר אביגדור ממשרד הפנים.
Okay, so here is material of someone named Pe'er Avigdor from the Israel Interior Ministry,
סגן ממונה בחיפה.
who is the deputy head in Haifa for like for internal affairs, yeah.
שהוא אמר בראיון שמסרו ילדים לאימוץ
Okay, he said in an interview that kids who were kidnapped were later on taken for adoption.
ואמרו להורים שהם מתו.
And then they said that to the parents that the kids were died. But what's significant is Michael uncovered that someone within the system from the Israeli Interior Ministry actually spilled the beans and told the bluff and what is the scandal.
אבל מי שצריך לחקור זה המשטרה.
Okay, so Michael is saying that the police should have investigated,
אתם תיחו את הכל.
but they made a huge cover-up.
יש לי את כל ההוכחות.
And he has all the
איך הם מטייחים?
all the proofs. We had 3 bogus national investigation committees, so if you're up on it, that's an issue. So, but now Michael said, and how did the police cover up?
Because the police don't make a serious investigation. Because they can find a lot of children, but they didn't find no one. And I was...
In other words, they didn't want to find anybody, so they didn't find.
How I know it, I have a talking with the Rosh HaMossad, Amit.
Right. So we have to explain. Mayor Amit, who testified for Fernanda, also Michael as a detective knew Mayor Amit, who was the head of the Mossad. So Mayor Amit told Michael.
It was so. I asked him why you didn't find the children, because you have a lot. Dr. Goldstein, but he's a face of Yemen in the United States, or Brazil, Bolivia. I saw a lot Yemen.
But in other words, Michel's asking, well, why is it that all these adopted kids as adults who are in the West, like in America, why do they have dark Yemenite features?
No, but I asked him, why I asked him? Because the agent, why I start with, an agent who named Aharoni wrote a book.
Okay, a Mossad agent named Aharoni wrote a book.
Wrote a book that they have, wrote a book that they was to keep Dr. Mengele. They very close, and it cost to find him 100 times more than Eichmann. They get order, don't find Mengele, find Yosele Schuchmacher.
Right, in other words, Michael is pointing to skewed priorities of the Mossad. So there was a kidnapped Ashkenazi boy, who was a big deal in Israel, who was found in New York. So the Mossad wanted to deal with that instead of chasing Mengele, so they put off the Mengele hunt for a period of time.
And I asked him, so he wrote me a letter.
Okay. The head of the Mossad
כתב לי
wrote to Michael.
שלא רצו להחזיר את פרננדה.
They didn't want to bring Fernanda to Israel.
Bring the agents. אני לא ידעתי. לא ידעתי על פרננדה אז.
All right, so wait. Michael is a private investigator. Of course, he didn't know about Fernanda. This is a long time ago. So, wait. So, Mayor Amit said that Israel didn't want to bring back to Israel the agents involved in this episode, which is the Esek Bish, the second Esek Bish.
יש לך פה מכתב בספר שלי, מכתב אחד.
Wait. Were there other agents caught besides Fernanda?
כן.
All right. How many?
I know about more too.
All right, so Michael knows about at least 2 other agents who were detected. So Fernanda was the second round of the blunder of the Israeli intelligence, where at least 3 agents were captured,
or killed,
tortured, or killed. But Fernanda, luckily, was liberated and brought to Israel, despite the fact that the government of the Mossad wasn't interested in bringing these people back to Israel.
No. I have the letters of Mayor that he wrote me in my book.
That who? The Mayor Amit?
Sure, Mayor Amit.
What about Ghibli? Is Ghibli connected to this?
Sure.
Okay, how?
I tell you how. Because Ghibli make agreement with the... דקה. Ghibli, you see, I have a letter from Mayor Amit in his picture, in his handschrift about these things.
Right, in Mayor Amit's handwriting, he wrote in Hebrew to Michael, revealing all of this.
עכשיו, יש לי עוד...
But Michael, of course, didn't know about Fernanda then.
No. And I have a book that one of the agents that worked with Ghibli make false documents to cover this group.
Okay, so wait, in a book that you wrote or you found?
No, that he wrote, the agent that he get.
What was his name?
Every Elad, he got 12 years to sit in jail because he covered Dayan and covered Ghibli. And after the...
All right, so there was an Israeli intelligence agent who covered up for Ghibli and Dayan and got 12 years imprisonment for that criminal act.
עברי אלעד, האדם השלישי קראו לו, האדם השלישי.
The third man,
הוא קיבל את הרשת במצרים ב-52 שהקים אברהם דר.
wait, so he's connected to the second round, in other words, to a second underground group of the Mossad in Egypt. That was started in 55.
ויום אחד קראו לו לאירופה לזייף יומן, כי שר הביטחון...
All right, so this guy who was accused and later was in jail, he was called to Europe to forge, what, a passport?
לזייף את היומן של הפקודות
Oh, to forge the daily instructions that he got. In other words, the Mossad in Israel is giving him instructions, and what he does, he goes to Paris and he falsifies them.
הוא הלך וג'יבלי, דרך אמרו לו תזייף יומן שלבון נתן לך את ההוראה, ששר הביטחון שלא ידע.
Wait. Ghibli gave to, what's the agent's name?
זיידנברג, האדם השלישי, עברי אלעד.
He gave an order to every Elad, Zeidenberg, that he should forge the daily instructions so that
כאילו, כי ג'יבלי, להפיל את זה במקום על ג'יבלי על שר הביטחון.
Oh, so that in all the mischievity here, that the defense minister Moshe Dayan will be blamed instead of Ghibli.
No, Moshe Dayan.
Who?
Moshe Dayan was after, שר הביטחון was לבון, after came.
Sorry, right, okay. No, in other words, so Ghibli through forging the documents, gave an order so that the agent would blame Lavon, the defense minister, instead of Ghibli.
ואז בן גוריון הסתכסך עם לבון.
So what happened? Ben Gurion, the prime minister, he got into a serious conflict with Lavon.
ושהוא לא הגיע לאמת כי שיקרו לו גם.
Wait, תסביר בדיוק. מי אמר למי?
בן גוריון הקים ועד, ביקש להגיע לאמת, להקים ועדה שלושה.
Ben Gurion wanted to have an investigation committee to get to the truth.
ואז לקחו שני, דורי, לקחו את הרמטכ"ל לשעבר.
It took Dory, who was the former chief of staff, and
ובית משפט עליון, אולשן.
And took a high court judge Olshan.
והם ניסו לבדוק, והם שאלו.
All right, so they were in charge of the investigation committee, and they asked who?
והוא שיקר להם.
Wait, who? Ghibli?
לא.
Avery?
עברי שיקר להם.
Oh, so these two prominent people on the investigation committee asked Avery what happened, and Avery lied to them.
בעניין שג'יבלי ביקש אותו.
Okay, so in other words, Avery lied that it covered up that Ghibli requested from him to cover this up, and in the end, Avery got 12 years in jail. Okay, so this is all part of the rotten system of the intelligence people on the ground who aren't surveilled by the Israeli parliament, the Knesset.
אז עכשיו, אני דיברתי עם עמית וזורע.
Okay, so Michael, the private investigator, talked to Mayor Amit and Meir Zorea, who were Mossad heads.
ודיברתי עוד.
And he also talked to
תת-אלוף יואל בן פורת.
To Brigadier General Yoel Ben Porat.
שסיפר לי.
So Yoel Ben Porat told Michael,
שלפני מלחמת יום הכיפורים,
before the Yom Kippur War,
נתן דיין הוראה,
Dayan gave an order,
לפרק את המוקשים בקו בר לב.
okay, to demine the mines in the Bar Lev defense.
זה יואל בן פורת.
Okay, so all right. איך זה קשור עכשיו לפרננדה?
זה קשור, כי יואל בן פורת סיפר לי שהוא לא יודע, היה הרי רשת במצרים שהיו צריכים לתת התראות שיש מלחמה, היו כמה רשתות.
ב-73 או ב...
לא,
שהיו קיימות.
קיימות.
Wait, okay, now, this is related to Fernanda because Yoel Ben Nun, Ben Porat, knew about past Israeli under covert intelligence networks in Egypt, but aval.
הוא אומר, אני לא יכול לספר לך.
So Ben Porat says to Michael, the investigator, I can't tell you.
Because הם ישימו אותי בכלא.
Because if I tell you, they're going to put me in jail.
אתם עשו פשעים גדולים מאוד.
But that they made great crimes.
אבל.
But.
תדבר.
So here. So he told Michael who to talk to so that it all be legitimate and public and legal.
תדבר עם אלוף זורע.
So Ben Porat sends Michael, the private investigator, to talk to the head of the Mossad, Meir Hazorea,
על פשעים שהם ביצעו, אותה קבוצה.
on the crimes that the same group with Ghibli and the others performed.
בגלל שאין פיקוח עליהם.
Because there was no surveillance over them, no political surveillance and no official Israeli state surveillance. So Hazorea wrote a letter to private investigator Michael Raz on the 16th of April 1994.
הוא כותב ככה.